No Gifts, Please. The Parenting Podcast by the Pair. Can you stop drinking for a second? By the Pair with No Real Gifts. We're on a 2-shot, but a whole lot of gumption. Hey everyone, I'm Steve Noviello.
And I'm Jenny Anchondo, very hydrated.
Just staying hydrated over there. What do you got? Is it a sparkling water?
Are you impressed? I started with like this much before that drink.
That was...
It's not sparkling though.
Oh, I was getting... But it says sparkling
It says sparkling. My little... Okay,
did you refill?
I'm obsessed with the look of my
so for those who are not watching on YouTube, Jenny's walking around with what is essentially a glass San Pellegrino bottle, green San Pellegrino bottle.
I love the way it looks. I buy one and then I refill it with my filtered water from home and then carry it around with me for like a week or two and then I recycle it. You know what I mean? It's fun. And then I get to look forward to another sparkling water because I don't want to drink constantly sparkling water, but I always want to have the sparkling water looking thing.
I love it.
So there's my life story.
There you go. Okay.
We had a fun
drink on your own time
podcast field trip the other day to one of our favorite little spots. We Rock the Spectrum.
Oh, yes. I mean, it was funny. It was one of those, in fact, was it?
It was a last minute.
Well, and it may have been when Doug was like on the back end of being sick.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, somebody please, like just somebody hang out
get me out of here.
Somebody hang out with me.
I was like,
I think yes, because the night before our dad friends invited, it was like, hey, would you like, I was like, yes, whatever you're asking, we're in. Like let's hang out.
Well, it was so cute because,
I like that place.
Well, Gemma has never been to a play place. That was her first.
Her inaugural place outing.
Inaugural outing. And I've taken her, she goes to Little Gym, but that's a structured thing. She's never been in like a free play. And I think
she did good.
She did great.
She really owns it. I mean, she's like walking, full on, like she's an independent woman.
She is. And she confidently walked in. I mean, very infrequently did she look back and look for me or look for you or find out where we are. I mean, you and I were able to, which is actually a little different than Brighton at that age. I wasn't able to carry an adult conversation when taking her out at just one. But I mean, I felt like Gemma walked in and was like, thank God. Like I've been
where you been hiding this?
And just she's home all the time and she's kind of a homebody. And so I think that she really enjoyed it and it was so cute. And the kids kind of, kept an eye out, but let her do her thing. And
well, don't you think also that's partly like you're a different mom with number 2?
1,000,000%.
Yeah. You're, again, we joke about you being a smother mother, but like it's not in bold all caps.
It's more moderate
this time around.
The second I walked in, I did think, oh, so we're getting the flu now. So this is my fate. And we're far enough removed from that particular play date. Knock on wood, I don't think we got the flu there, but I mean, it's definitely like, it's not the place itself. It's just any of those kids' places. They're just complete cesspools. They just are. It's just no matter how much you sanitize and clean, it's just and Gemma just goes in and just like gnaws on everything. Yeah. But it was cute, and I love that we still get our kids together.
Speaking of germs, so funny anecdote for you. I took the kids for their physical.
So, like for sports, or is it just like
like their annual,
like their appointment? Do you call like their pediatrician appointment their physical?
Like if they're not going in for like an illness, like once a year, I take them in for like a once over.
I guess I just didn't call that a physical. I always thought physicals were to get into sports and then checkups. But anyway, same thing. It's like they're 8-year and 6-year appointments,
right? Like they're neither one of them are like at the like turn your head and cough age. But you right.
Yeah. Checkup.
You're not a boy and you don't have boys, but you get what I'm saying.
I'll never have to know.
Yes, the cold finger of the physical. Okay, so I called to make the appointment. So we've got one in December, one in February, right? With the way that insurance works, you can go once a year for each child. Jacob somehow last time I had it was February and then it was March. By the time I got him in, it was April.
Oh, and so now you can't go till like June.
Correct.
Or May.
Correct.
Yes, it's so annoying. Yes. And now each year it's going to be
it's going to be October at some point. So I called up and I said, hey, listen, I've got to get, it was Jen, I wanted to get them both in. I said, so I'm going to go a little late for my one son and a little early for the other one. Like, can we make it happen? And she's like, because it was April last time, like your insurance. And I said, she's like, let me check and whatever. And she says, oh, wait a minute. You actually completely missed last year. So you're good.
Come anytime you like.
So like, come on in. I was like, oh, okay.
That's hilarious. How'd you get their records for school and stuff? Like I
don't know.
Like their vaccine records.
Who knows?
They didn't hound you.
I mean, but yeah, I don't know.
They're like, listen, they've got two dads.
But there's
just
also
let them.
They're fine.
Like they're fine.
They're fine. Well, but like also because we did have to submit immunizations, but also
or maybe it wasn't a big vaccine year. Like they're already done.
Yes, there's one. Which the other thing they're done with, I don't know if your pediatrician does it. I'm assuming they do this like it's called ASQ, Ages and Stages questionnaire, where it's like, can they, point to this? Can they do this? Can they?
I guess for Gemma, but I don't know for Brighton.
Right. Well, apparently that's over, and we may have skipped the last year for Hudson. So fingers crossed on that.
He's fine.
He's fine. So we go to the appointment, and it's 6 o'clock at night. Because that's my life now.
Yeah.
Things have to happen at in very off hours. And we go and, again, it's that whole, which, I get it. Like, hey, it's only because daddy's in the room and the doctor's here. And that's why I can see your privates and that kind of thing, whatever. So she's checking out Jacob. It's a lot of like, hey, asking him, like, what do you eat? Like, how often do you drink water?
How often does your dad feed you Chick-fil-A?
Exactly. Like, how many goldfish are we talking about? Like, all this other kind of stuff. It's good. They have their hearing checked, which we joked about because I was like, hey, the doctor just said there's something wrong with your hearing. So now that we know this, when I ask you to do something and you say I didn't hear you, I'm going to assume you're lying.
I'm going to do that one for Heath too.
So she is checking out Hudson, and she is kind of, okay, she's listening to him breathe. She's like listening more intently. I'm like, what? Like, what's going on here? And she said, has he been coughing a lot lately? And I said, no, not at all. She said, but like lethargic, like he's been lethargic maybe. And I was like, no, in fact, if you have something you can prescribe that causes lethargy, we will take it. Like, she said, honey, cough for me, breathe deep for me, blah, blah, blah. She looks at me, she goes, are you aware that your son has walking pneumonia?
No. My friend Steve, the present father, loving dad to two kids.
I said to her, do they...
Wait, but is it walking like you don't feel the symptoms as much? So
I said, will they mail the Dad of the Year award, or is that something I pick up on the way out of the pediatrician's office? Like, will it be engraved? Like, do you need the spelling of my name? And then I said, I'm going to ask you a question.
Oh, no.
And if I don't like your answer, we're going to pretend I did not ask this question.
Okay.
Do you know what the question is? This was a Thursday night.
Is he contagious? Can he go to school tomorrow? I do not have childcare for him tomorrow. I am a working dad with another working dad.
Right. I said, can he go to school tomorrow? She said, well, I mean, he's been there all week and you will start an antibiotic tonight. Right now. We're going to give him the first.
Technically, probably not till 6 p.m. He's safe.
So she said, I wouldn't worry about it.
My gosh! So how is he doing?
This is weeks ago. Which,
so he's fine. He's fine. You know what?
By the way, as is everybody else, because no one else got walking pneumonia
that you know of.
That we know
unless they were also like, can I just?
Well, during COVID, we got to the point because at our daycare, this is way back when, like one kid would get COVID, they would shut the whole thing down. So like all the parents got together and we were like, listen, nobody gets COVID anymore, right? Like if your kid is sick, keep your kid home. Don't be calling the director and say your kid has COVID because the rest of us are then out for the week. Like, we will chance it. Right. Nobody reports
everybody
COVID
there is a
anymore.
working parent. Yeah. It's not like you guys were trying to send your kids off so you could go drink martinis. Like it's
correct.
It's the struggle,
and like at that point, like the COVID stuff, like it was like year 7 of the pandemic, and it was like, oh my gosh, can we not? Because they would shut down with the whole place for a week.
What did you guys do?
They stayed at home with us. We worked from home. We broadcasted from home.
That's right. You were working.
We did all that kind of stuff.
Oh my gosh, I loved doing the show from home.
Oh God, I did not.
You didn't?
No.
That was. I mean, look, with all
my shows now, I don't even know. But I mean, then I was just anchoring newscasts.
See, honestly, it was delightful. I've never been lit better.
I will say that I did have good lighting.
My own light.
Yes.
Like
good lighting.
Because nobody cares more about how your stuff looks than you. And so I would spend so much time. I made this beautiful background. I had like this gorgeous 3-point lighting system. I had a little
uplight.
I had an uplight.
Little Judge Judy light.
I mean, I've never looked better.
Yeah. I had downlight. I mean, I had the jawline of an 18-year-old. It was great.
It was so great. Even my boss at the time was like, wow. You look incredible. I was like, thank you. It's my lighting.
It's my at-home lighting.
And the fact that I can work out during the day because I'm so efficient working from home.
Yeah.
Like nobody's bugging me. Nobody's talking to me. You know what I just remembered? I remembered why I was bringing up the We Rock the Spectrum thing off the top.
Okay.
And it wasn't just like, aren't we cute? And we took our kids to We Rock the Spectrum. It was that right before we left. So I feel like we're always talking about how Jacob is like academic and maybe not as much into the sports. Like you've kind of dabbled a little bit here and there.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end, he wanted to play basketball.
Yeah.
And was like really good at it.
We were at Cub Scouts the other day. He was playing football in the hallway.
See,
I was
here's
like,
the thing.
what are we doing here, dude?
Here's what we do. What we're doing here is in America, or maybe everywhere, I don't know. I only know we're Dallas County. We start kids way too young in sports.
I think so too. I think we ruined it.
They're not ready. So, no, some are for sure. There's obviously some standouts and they're like 3 years old and they're kicking the ball. But what happens is the kids like Jacob who are super sharp, they can do a little comparison and be like, oh, I see him kicking the ball. I'm not good. And it's not that. It's just his body is not ready.
Right.
His mind
I'm
hasn't
not good
come
at this
around
yet.
to the understanding of it. And I think that we like specialize so early that then somebody like Jacob, who's now, 8 and maybe like finding his way, now it's almost like hard to join a team because everybody's been doing it so hardcore for so long.
Yes.
But I felt like in that moment, I was looking at him thinking he's got to like join just a little casual shoot around team. Maybe they don't even play games. Maybe it's an after school program where they just shoot around because he seemed like he was having so much fun.
It's funny. The other thing that I do wrong that I have now tried to correct from after some advice for you, because like I said, we were just at Cub Scouts the other night and the meeting got out early and it was raining outside. The kids were playing football in the hallway. He's got an arm on him. I mean, he was like throwing. I was
very strong.
Yeah. But my downfall is I ask my children if they want to do something, and that's apparently not the way to go. Like that play date we talked about on the last show, I was like, hey, on Sunday, you're going to this place and this is what we are doing. Because had I asked, he would have been like, no thanks.
No.
Like this is like Hudson, you're taking piano lessons. They start next week.
Yeah.
Like now you play piano.
Yeah.
This is what you do now.
Oh, and he's going to love it.
Well, he started and he's, again,
it's
Hudson.
not easy. But.
Well, Hudson is also, he's like, I took a lesson. I'm good. I'm like, no,
Brighton does that too. She does that too
no.
with chess.
Yeah.
She did like 2 semesters of chess and she's like, I already know how to, I'm like, girl, you know how to set up a board.
We did that with swim. This poor kid that came over to teach him how to swim. One lesson, the guy came back the next week and Hudson was like, what's this guy doing here? I was like, he's here for your swim lesson. He goes, I already took a lesson. And like to the point where we were like, because Hudson would just sit there and squirt him with a water gun for the entire hour. So we were like, hey, Coach Kevin, like, we cannot subject you to this any longer. Like we totally, like I know we committed.
We are firing you.
Well, like you are free to
ourselves.
You are free to go. Like we don't feel like we will pay out and be done here because we are like.
So you can't sit out there and be like, Hudson, knock it off.
But like. Yeah, but again,
I feel like I do that at Brighton's cheer sometimes. She'll be goofing off, and I will be like, "Listen, we'll leave right now."
He was also 3 at the time. You know what I mean? Like
you need to yell at him.
I think you need to just come over and be like, "Listen, here's the deal, kids. Here's what you're doing." Aunt Jenny is saying.
I do think sometimes they have to just.
Jacob was like that with basketball. I signed him up. He loved it, and I was like, "Hey, do you want to keep playing?" He was like, "No, thanks."
No. You're
like,
playing.
I should just tell him, well, it never ends. The season's never over.
Well, right. Exactly. Like it's still
the same season. Like we're still signed up.
We're still signed up. We're still doing it. Because he was really good. Like it wasn't like, I mean, sometimes, you put your child in something and you're like, okay, this is like really bad. Like I really shouldn't make him or her do this. But I was like, no, he's holding his own. He should do that.
He's beating me.
Yeah. Well. Are you good at basketball?
I mean, I'm tall.
You are tall. No, I'm sure you were better than me. I mean, I scored like 2 points the whole season. So, but I thought that was very, he has his
exciting moments for sure.
I've been thinking about making Brighton do an instrument again because we had a real bad experience with piano.
I do want Raul, who you know from my work, bought Hudson a guitar for his birthday.
Oh, cool.
And Hudson, and by the way,
what happened to no gifts, please? I guess Raul's exempt.
Well, oddly, he was like, I want to get him a guitar. I was like, get him a guitar. Which also I think dude, if you learn how to play the guitar,
you are the man.
You are that's a pretty that's a pretty cool thing to know how to do. So I have been peeking around in our neighborhood group to be like, hey, who's a good kid guitar teacher? that also. So when I was a kid, I begged my parents to take piano lessons, and I did. There was a lady a few blocks away. I would walk to her house and take piano lessons.
That's what I need. I need just a neighborhood lady.
Yeah. And then my parents bought a piano, and then I never played it again. And then we had this freaking piano in our living room for like 10 years that, I was like, you really should get a player piano. I'm just saying, just making a recommendation.
Oh my gosh.
Our aunt had a player piano. I was like, see, that's cool.
What do you think? Okay, so guitar, I agree. Like, you're the man.
Easy to store, easy to,
it's just like a cool, like you can bring it out
at coordination.
Campfires. Like I'm picturing you can be at a campfire and you bring it out. You can be like in a church choir. You can be in a band. You can be a rock star. I'm like, you're on the quad in college, like playing your guitar. What's
with
the
your
girl equivalent of that?
What do you mean?
I guess girls could do that too. I mean, I'm not trying to be like
2025. Girls can do the same thing.
I mean, I
boys
understand that. I'm just saying I don't feel like it carries the same excitement.
Like what's something that a girl like whips out and like plays and people are like, oh, she's super cool.
Yeah.
Maybe singing. Like
Brighton definitely wants to be Taylor Swift. There's a bunch of Taylor Swift camps now. Like
okay, so let me ask you this. We just talked about this on my show the other day. There was a psychologist, speaking of which, and he said the mark of a good parent is asking whether or not you're a good parent.
Not making your friends' kids do piano when they don't want to.
The mark of a good parent is the answer that your child gives to the following question. You ready?
Oh my gosh, I'm literally going to write these down. But I'm scared.
Do you want to be famous? He said that if your child says, yes, I want to be famous, then they have an external system of validation as opposed to an internal system of validation where they get their validation from others and don't have introspective validation for themselves.
Yeah, I mean, that totally makes sense.
But don't you think
some people are born to be stars, though, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
As says the two people who work in television for a living, right? I mean, there's a perfectly good reason why I never became a newspaper reporter, right? Like they don't put your face on the newspaper. But I also think that it's an interesting concept, and I get what he's saying about the validation and the internal and the external and that kind of thing. However, we live in such a world now where it's not even, I wonder, when I was a kid, the idea of being famous, right, I think means something so different to kids today.
Okay.
Because kind of everybody's famous these days. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, if you want to put yourself out there and curate it, you'll get a following. Like, there you go. And you can. I mean, there are very strategic ways to build a following and gain a following. And if somebody wants to do that, they can.
Right. Like it's right. And it's a
lot of work.
Like, is there a 10-year-old girl that looks at Taylor Swift and thinks, I don't want to be her? Like, maybe. I don't know. I don't have a 10-year-old girl.
There's certain people who are like, I don't want to be on stage. Like, I wouldn't want all that pressure. I don't want to have to memorize those songs and do all those outfits and work until midnight every time I'm on tour or be on a tour bus. Or,
for sure.
There's certainly people that's not for, but that's an interesting. Okay, what were the other things he said?
That was it.
That was just the only mark of a good parent.
That was his whole shtick.
Whoa, great. Well, I guess you're parenting one well and the other one not.
That's what I was thinking, right? Thing. Like, so one of you sucks and the other one is. Well, also, I mean, I'm sure you must experience this with Brighton. Like, I wonder sometimes, because the boys ask about it every now and again, like, we'll be out doing something, whatever, and people will come over and say hi. And Hudson be like, Daddy, how does everybody know your name? I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Because complete strangers will know me from work.
Of course.
And then when I'm out with them, we'll say hello, or we'll be at a checkout. But
aren't they like, my dad's on TV?
Yes, he puts that together. And I wonder sometimes, like, what in your mind, because the screens are everywhere.
They're everywhere. Like, so it's like not special.
It's not being like
anybody's parent is on Instagram.
Like they're on TV as well by virtue of like the fact that we have a slideshow on our television with their pictures on. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like it's just such a different.
Totally.
It's just such a different experience, I think, for digital kids than it was for us.
That's so true. It's not exclusive to us. Everybody's parent is on TV in one way or another, or on a screen. Right.
And these days, like you pop your face into an AI thing and you're on a billboard in Times Square. You know what I mean?
Is that how people have been doing that? Is that?
I mean, I guess that maybe some
I just
of
saw
them
that
actually
happen
are.
recently.
I think
And
I know
was like,
I
wow,
know exactly what you're
that's
talking
so
about.
cool. But, yeah.
And okay, to your point, these were two girls that I think we're talking about. And I thought to myself, that's either totally true
Yeah.
or not. And I really have no idea
I
because
have no
either
idea.
is plausible.
I'm like,
And I
cool.
don't really care.
Y'all look
you know?
great.
Yeah, but they did. They both looked beautiful.
Well, and then, you know, I was thinking, I wonder if they rotate through, like you get a thing and it's like, get your photo. It's going to be up for 10 seconds and we're going to rotate through. And I was like, well, that's cool.
So you know what? It's funny. So when my nighttime show started, they did a billboard campaign around town on those digital billboards.
That's amazing.
And I was like, I sat there and I waited because I was like, okay, that's
to rotate through.
Cool. Like I've never been on a billboard before,
I'm
right?
surprised you haven't.
No, never. But of course it's a digital one. So
They count the same because I count those for me.
they count the same, but they are incredibly difficult to photograph.
You have to say, I've sat. I am not too proud to say that I have sat
like
and
on the
waited
side of
for
a
it to-
highway.
Yes, I
because
have.
of the way that these no,
yes,
yes.
but people, I'm sure other people saw it and sent you pictures too.
But even when you do get a picture, they're hard to because of it's like
pixelated and
pixelated
stuff, yeah.
and crappy and
I
like
know.
you can't. It's not.
Let me
funny.
tell you this.
I was like, could they like set because they do have those, and you'll have them at your station too. Like where our people that do such things. There are cameras on those billboards as well that shoot the billboard, I guess, to be able to prove to
proof
whomever
of performance or,
bought the space that, hey, look, here's your thing, right?
So Brighton, on the same topic of your kids sort of understanding what you do and that there may be like an elevated audience for your name.
Correct.
She was on a school field trip and they were in a bus and there was a dart bus next to them. And I was...
And was your face on the side of it?
I wasn't on the side of it. I was on the screen inside the dart bus, which I didn't even know we had ad placement there, but I guess we do. And she talks about it every time we see a dart bus. So that to her was very cool. So it's interesting, like the cool factor. It's not, because I watch the DVR episodes every night, just like reviewing and how did the show go and what's this
what does
look
it
like, you know, on a TV. And that, I feel like she's like, oh, cool. But she'll come and go. But that dart bus, man, that was it.
But don't you think? But don't you think same for you as well? Like
kind of.
Yes. Well, no, absolutely. Like so, I think I told you this. I went to a watch party of a recent show that I had done.
Yes.
And it was very interesting to me to now. Granted, it was a curated collection of my guests.
Of
friends.
all your best fans.
Right. I mean, it was her. It was a woman who I know who was on the show, and then she invited all of her best girlfriends over to have a screening of the show. And then
I just love
went
the
over
pomp and circumstance of it
was
all. That's
lovely.
So
I mean, there was
sweet.
like sandwiches and like cookies and like a whole situation, right? But to me, because everyone's like, "Oh, is it weird to see yourself on TV?" And I said, "No, not at all." But what was very interesting to me was to watch my show in front of an audience of people who were watching the show.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, is
like
what
the reactions.
is what we're doing landing? Is it funny the way I think it's funny? Like how's like, am I holding your attention? Like, again, very captive audience because they were all there to support her.
But they could have totally just started talking over the
100%,
show. And then
100%.
how awkward would that be?
100%.
Like, you guys shut up, I'm talking.
Right, exactly. Excuse me, I'm on TV. But to your point, so like that all that kind of planned stuff. But if I'm watching the Super Bowl, for example, and a commercial comes on that I'm on, to me, I'm like, oh, wow. Like,
that is
you know what I mean? Like when you see yourself in an unexpected...
That was pretty cool that you guys had the Super Bowl.
Like an unplanned moment.
Yes.
Like a bus or,
like a bus.
Whatever else.
That's true.
You're like, oh, wow.
Well, because it's showing you to the audience that doesn't normally see you and then their potential viewers. And
like when I'm surprised by it, I'm like, oh, wow, that is cool.
Go us. Go us. I'm not going to ask Brighton this question about do you want to be famous?
You think she'd say yes?
Honestly, a year ago, she would have said no. I think the last year, and I'm super hyper aware, like she's performing and doing cheer and doing some of these things and like she wants to see, she goes, did Mustang post anything on Instagram from the competition?
Am I in the pictures?
Like,
right.
yeah. And I've toyed with like just cutting that off and being like, I'm not going to show you.
Right.
I don't know. I'm like very in flux on that. I'm very contemplative about that. Do I show her that, yes, they put you on there? Because obviously most of the time they don't. It's just random.
Right.
So then is she going to feel like, oh, I didn't do anything interesting and because they didn't put me on their Instagram? Like it's a whole toxic
right. And then like, do you
downward
also
cycle.
make sure that you're showing her, giving equal time to the times when she's not on it to be like, hey, this is, like you can't celebrate the wins if there's not a loss.
Right. Yeah, don't worry. She got third place last weekend. So I don't know.
So, I mean, we'd have so much money and free time.
Oh my gosh. I would be so fit.
But we wouldn't be doing this podcast, and that is a blessing all in of itself. So we want you to join us every Tuesday morning when a new episode drops. You can find us on your favorite podcast platform, and if you do nothing else today, go find yourself a friend you don't need to clean the house for. We'll see you next time.